Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Mindful Constitution podcast. I have a very special friend here today, Nicole Pearce, formerly known as Nicole Perry.
Yeah.
I'm like, Perry, Pierce.
Close enough.
Yeah, we got it. So Nicole is awesome because she's not only a Pilates instructor and YouTube sensation, dog lover, book talk star, aromatherapist. Like, what the hell? What else do we do?
I'm so random. Whatever I'm in the mood for that month is what I do.
Oh my God, makeup tutorials.
Yep.
Those are amazing, by the way. Yes, this is my vibe. This is where I'm at in makeup land right now. Very amateur.
Oh my God, I'm hopeless.
The dog leash bag was my favorite. So, yes, so many different fun areas that you thrive in and share about on social media. But you're also my friend from high school. So this is also just a fun chat between two friends, which I'm excited to dive in as we've known each other like 20 years.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's scary. So for starters, I wanted to ask about, okay, did I get Pilates instructor, but you have like a bunch of certifications, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Pilates is my focus now, but I am a certified personal trainer. And then I got some smaller certifications like along the way, spinning, but I don't use that anymore. Rowing and indoor row certification, don't use that anymore. So now it's really Pilates is my main focus, and then also postpartum and pregnancy specialty.
Good. I'll use that.
Yeah.
I'll need some support later in that department.
I got you.
Yeah, and you did get a certification in aromatherapy or right at one point, so you know a little bit about that too, or a lot of it.
Yeah, that I love school and I love learning, but I don't necessarily like then doing anything with the knowledge that I learned. So I did this whole aromatherapy course, got certified. I loved learning about it, and then I just kind of never did anything with it.
Yeah, but you use it in your personal life, and
Yeah.
that's nice too. It doesn't always have to be monetized, I guess.
Right. Although I feel like with the internet these days, it feels like you have to like make something of all your hobbies and interests, but you're right. It can just be for fun.
I know, it really does feel like that though. And then it's like, okay, I can just share stuff too, you know, not everything has to be like a route to be an expert or make money off of. It can just be for fun, a hobby, a good old fashioned freaking hobby. So, okay, tell me, speaking of social media, I kind of wanted to start because I love your social media and how you're really authentic and down to earth, and you seem just like very comfortable expressing yourself in whatever weird way you feel like it. And I think it's really relatable and refreshing. And I know you've been doing it for a long time, but I talk with a lot of people too who are afraid to put themselves out there and kind of feeling shy or nervous about what people will think of them if they just let their freak flag fly. So how long would you say it took you to kind of get comfortable just showing up on social media? And like, what was the trajectory of your social media evolution back from like pumps and iron days?
Yeah, it's been so long. It really started in 2012, so over 10 years ago when I started my blog, Pumps and Iron, and rest in peace.
I know,
And
I love that.
I know it still exists. You can look up the website, but it hasn't been touched in a while. It's collecting dust. But it started then when blogs were big. And at first, I was not comfortable with it at all. It was like this embarrassing little hobby that I did. I didn't want really anyone to know about it. My mom was like the only person who read it. But this was back when Pinterest was really popular. So for my blog, I would make these workout tutorials, these pictorials, and they started kind of going viral on Pinterest. So back then I had a desk job, an office job. And I remember one day someone, like one of the secretaries at the office was like, oh, like pulled me aside and was like, Nicole, I think I saw you on Pinterest. And I was mortified. I was like, oh my God, this embarrassing hobby I do on the weekends,
Oh
taking
my
pictures
God.
of myself in my living room, and someone knows. And I was so embarrassed. And I've come a long way from then. Like now I truly, no shame. But it was, you know, in the last decade and always social media is changing. So it started with just blog and Pinterest, and then Instagram started getting popular. And then it kind of shifted to video content. So then I started focusing more on YouTube. And I just think as it's evolved, I've slowly gotten more comfortable putting myself out there, especially just because, I mean, when I started, I was in my early 20s. And now I'm in my mid 30s. And I just feel like a part of getting older that's so awesome is you just kind of care less what people think about you, and you're more comfortable just showing up as yourself.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that. I was actually going to ask because I remember watching something. I don't even remember when it was, but it was a while ago, and you had posted about one of the best parts of going from your 20s to 30s is how many less fucks we give. And
I know.
I think that's so relatable because it is so true. The older you get, the more self-conscious you are. It seems like the more comfortable you are in your own skin. And I mean, it is just, it's relieving, really, to stop caring so much.
It is. It's like, I mean, I had so much fun in my 20s, but so many aspects of it, I think back and I'm like, oh, it's exhausting to just care that much about stuff that in the bigger picture really doesn't matter.
I know, truly. And I just feel too that I don't know, it's just it is a natural evolution, but it's so amazing how the more you just put yourself outside of your comfort zone and just do it, the more comfortable you get. So I can think of my first live was only a couple years ago that I did when I first started mindful constitution, and I'm like, oh my God, that must have been so painfully awkward. The lady I did it with, I was like, oh, did you save that? She's like, no, I didn't. I'm like, oh, shoot. But probably for the better. And it's just funny thinking about how nervous you used to get or could be trying things for the first time and how it slowly dissipates the more you do it.
Yeah.
And I was just envisioning her coming up to you, the secretary in the office, in your like giraffe costume. Because I'm pretty sure that was the office job, right?
It was a Majatas. They had every year
Yeah.
a Halloween costume and contest, and I was like, I think I was still just a paid intern at that point, but the prize, if you win the Halloween costume contest, was $200, and I'm like 22 years old, like getting by on pennies here. So I'm like $200 plus I love Halloween. So I'm the youngest one at the office. I show up in a full on giraffe costume with like stilts for
Yeah.
arms, and like no one else went that far out. And I'm like walking around the office on these stilts, and I looked like an
Yeah.
idiot, but I won.
Yeah. You're like, it was worth it, honey.
Yeah,
I got a 18th of my rent paid on Newberry Street
exactly.
in my shoebox.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my God, the days. So, yeah, okay. Tell us about, I really want to hear about both book talk, first of all, and Pilates. So, which do you want to start with?
I
Book
guess we can
talk?
start with book talk since we were
Yeah.
just talking about social media. So I love reading,
Yeah.
and I really only got back into it like a few years ago. And I've always been sharing the books I read on Instagram, but I feel like TikTok is really good if you have like a niche for growing that. And so half is just something fun to do so I could nerd out about books, and then half is kind of an experiment to see like, could I actually grow this account if I really niche down? I started a book talk account 3 months ago now, and it's doing so well. I have over 20,000 followers already on it. It's like the
Yeah.
most fun thing. It's so cool.
TikTok's
But
pretty wild.
it is. It's so different from other social media networks because you go on expecting to see content from people you don't follow, Whereas I feel like in Instagram or Facebook, you only want to see content from the people you choose to follow and you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just so different. It's crazy.
Does feel like the Wild West over there. I take much more liberty in what I post because I'm like, no one I know follows me here.
Yeah.
I feel like Instagram, I'm a little more soft around the
Yeah.
edges.
Yeah.
The TikTok's like zero, but I'm probably one of the older people age bracket on TikTok, but it's okay. I love it and it's fun. And I think it's awesome that you've been able to, because you've always been a book nerd, bookworm.
Totally. No, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I know you've definitely found like your stride with a few different areas. And so I want to talk to you about Pilates because that's really where your career, I guess, is, and expertise. And I know we talked recently, last time we hung out too, about mobility and the importance of mobility and how you've kind of been shifting from high intensity workouts to a focus on mobility. So I want to hear more about how you kind of got into exercise, and group instruction, and also what you love so much about mobility and why it's so important in our overall well-being, because I feel like it's not as emphasized a lot, and it is really important.
Totally. I would say what I love about Pilates and mobility, they really kind of go hand in hand, is that it's such foundational movement that everyone can benefit from it. Like everyone's different and there's no one specific perfect workout routine. You should find the activity that you love doing and then build your workout routine around that to support it. And I love that Pilates and mobility, it really can support whatever your favorite type of movement is, whether it's CrossFit, yoga, running, hiking, surfing, whatever. Pilates can be a support for that. So that's really like why I fell in love with it. And just personally, for so many years, I had this mindset of like, I wanted to do the hardest possible workout ever. I wanted to feel dead at the end of it and totally spent. And so I was doing all these really intense workouts all the time. And I was feeling like shit. And just like little nagging, not injuries, but aches and pains. And it's because I didn't have a strong base. So kind of going back to that, focusing on breathing, deep core work, mobility, it's helped me feel so much better, and just changing my mindset to every workout you do shouldn't be the hardest possible thing you've ever done. I love a good ass kicking here and there for sure, but if you're doing that every day, it's a lot of stress on your body, on your adrenals. So I really pivoted in that different direction.
Yeah, just integrating more balance overall makes sense that we would need to complement high intensity with things that are more gentle and supportive of full mobility, full motion, supportive of the more challenging and rigorous exercises we do want. And I think we can really tend to normalize like degeneration of our bodies as aging. And it's just like, well, actually, I don't think it has to be as much if we're trying to integrate things that support maintenance and full range of motion and things, rather than just kind of doing one type of exercise that could be good in terms of the benefits of exercise, but maybe not in terms of the repetition of it.
Totally. And I really think of Pilates and mobility as it's like training for life. Like it helps you feel better in day-to-day movement, and it's really about longevity and feeling good, all throughout life. So I love that. It's like a practice that is beneficial for a 20-year-old and an 80-year-old. It really goes with you through life.
Yeah, it's quality of life maintenance. And I get what you're saying too. Even just that, getting older, there's more of a shift to being like, wait, I just want to feel good in my body. I don't need to like whoop my ass like every time I work out and kind of do excessively work out. And that's almost sometimes I always feel like the times when I look back and I was in the best shape, it was always when I was, had movement in my life in a way where it kind of felt simple and gentle and just kind of seamlessly was like woven into my life rather than the times where I was going to Orange Theory every single morning. In fact, I almost found sometimes when I was integrating more high intensity workout on a regular basis, I seemed like I lost weight slower. Is that?
Yeah, totally. A lot of it has to do, especially with women, hormones too, and like high intensity and a ton of cardio can throw that off. And also just with weight loss, it's really about diet. That's like 70% of it. And if we're doing a ton of cardio, a ton of high intensity interval work, often we overeat because we're tired and hungry. And so it doesn't help reach that goal. Whereas like kind of cutting back on that and focusing more on strength training would be more helpful.
I know I talk to people a lot and they always talk about how they're compensating for calories with working out. I'm like, you should actually be working out less and just focusing on diet more, because it's so much more bang for your buck. I feel with weight loss is focus on nutrition. And I remember hearing that when I was like 19 from a fitness instructor saying 70% exercise, 30%, or sorry, vice versa, 70% nutrition, 30% exercise. And I never forgot that.
Yeah.
Because it feels sometimes when you're overdoing it, it's counterintuitive. You're working against yourself in a way. Like you said, you're tired, you're hungry, you feel like you earned it. And so it's just a catch-22 sometimes. So yeah, but awesome. I love that. I focus on mobility and giving people increased and enhanced quality of life over all of their lifespan. So important.
Yeah. And a lot of times people don't find like Pilates until they're injured, until they're not feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's, recommended through physical therapy or whatever it is, it usually takes an injury so often for people to be like, all right, I'll give Pilates a try. But then it's like the light bulb goes off and they're like, oh, this is actually really helpful all the time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Flexibility, strength, so many things. And even with Pilates, I know yoga is definitely different and Pilates is more strength-based and stuff. But even with yoga, I find it's really nice because of the sort of just more mindful movement, and it seems like there's a spiritual element to it as well. And of course Pilates is different, but I kind of think of it in the same family in a way where it's kind of a more slowed down connection to our body sometimes that I think can be missing in variations of high intensity workout. So
totally, I think that's the key word, the like connected with. I find yoga is good mentally for me. Like that's why I like it, the mental benefits. And with Pilates, like there is just such that emphasis on connecting to your body, to your breath. It's so beneficial.
Yeah, and breath work too. I didn't realize that was such a big component of Pilates, but so amazing that it is, because that is what truly brings us that deep and sense of connection to our body and calming our nervous system, and so many benefits of just learning how to breathe right that I think a lot of people don't even realize that they're not capitalizing on.
I used to roll my eyes in like yoga and Pilates classes when the instructor would talk about breath. It's like, I'm like, oh, I know how to breathe. I do it all day. Like I would just brush it off. But there's such a difference between the automatic breathing we're doing throughout the day and then intentional breathing, which we can use in a Pilates class, where if you focus on that diaphragmatic breathing, you're connecting to your deep core, your pelvic floor. It's really the essence of Pilates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and bringing yourself out of fight or flight. We breathe so shallowly so much of the time, and it kind of keeps us in that sympathetic nervous system, which is not helpful at all. And I think most of us are in it a lot of the time. And so just really being cognizant. I catch myself all the time, even when I'm just laying in bed. And so I'm like, whoa, our breathing is so shallow when you don't actually pay attention, and the mouth breathing and all of that. You're like, oh God, I actually am noticing how much it makes a difference. I did breath work session. My friend Leanne, I do a lot of work with, because with Sober Curiosity, I always try to emphasize ways for people to calm their nervous system, you know, outside of self-medicating, and really learning how to emotionally regulate, because we're really not taught that.
Yeah.
And how it's through this connection to our body that we can achieve it. And I did they're called transformational breathwork journey, but it was a really long one. We had 90 minutes. And I was like, oh boy, this is going to be intense. And I literally felt high afterwards. I was like, whoa, that was crazy. Like, who knew you can reach that state through just breathwork alone? It's wild.
Totally. And so many people, like if I'm doing a analysis or whatever, I ask someone to take a deep breath. So many people, it's this shoulders up to the ears, and just the breath is all up here. We hold so much tension up there. And so you think that breathing, it's such a simple thing, but then you start really going over with someone like what a proper deep breath should look like, what should be expanding, what muscles should be firing. And it's hard. Like a lot of people have either reverse breathing patterns, or it's all trapped up here. Like it's crazy how intricate it can be.
I know. Absolutely. So I want to, I feel like we could talk about breath work forever, because it is such a big piece of, I think, not only working out, but just reconnecting to our bodies. Sorry if you can hear Vita barking in the background. Yeah. John just got back, so she's like, whoop. But yeah, I wanted to talk with you about how you find balance in your own life with, you know, or what balance does look like in your life. Realistic balance. I think a lot of times people kind of think that people working in the health and wellness and fitness space are highly motivated all the time, or they're making healthy choices 100% of the time, or it's kind of putting them in a different compartment as normal people per se. And so I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about, like, what does motivation look like for you normally? What does healthy balance look like in your life?
So this might be kind of a weird response, especially for someone whose career is in the health industry, but I find balance is not, and like health in general is not something that I'm consciously striving for. And for me, that mindset is what helps me be the most healthy and balanced. Like for so long, I would tend towards an all or nothing mentality. So it's like, if I'm trying to achieve this perfect balance, this idea of perfect anything, it ends up just instead seesawing between extremes. And so as ironic as it might sound, I've found over the last years, the less I have obsessed with and tried to strive towards this idea of health and balance, the healthier and the more balanced I am. Just, I don't know, like the mindset component for me. So it's not something I don't consciously think about. Is that a really weird thing to say for someone who's in the health industry?
I feel like it actually makes complete sense, especially because you've been in the health and wellness industry for a long time. And I find a lot of times people do go into things with an all or nothing mindset, but sustainability wise, it's just like not realistic to operate in that way. So you kind of have to get to that breaking point where you accept imperfection and you make things a little bit loose for yourself so that you can just gently make healthy choices. And you also have that awareness around health and what healthy choices are. It doesn't take as much effort. So it's not as if, you know, once you kind of get the knowledge base and you go through that extreme part where you're like, oh my God, everything is poison. I'm like somewhat still in that phase. I'm not gonna lie. But that's a talk for another day. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying. It allows like room for flexibility and sustainability over the long haul. It's something I always talk about too, because people starting out with health coaching or trying to make changes, they want to do everything at once. And I always tell them don't do that. Just start with one small thing and just do that until you get used to it. And then one more small thing. And those small changes add up. But it's when you're consumed with it too, there's a psychological element there that can't really be healthy, you know?
Totally. And you made such a good point about like knowledge sort of allowing for that more relaxed approach. Because when you're first starting out, it can be really helpful to, track what you're eating just to learn what you even are eating and what you're putting in your body, and have a dedicated workout plan as you learn about your body and what it needs. And so all that stuff can be really helpful, especially at first. And then because I've been doing this so long, I think that has afforded me the ability to not overthink it.
Right. And I totally would say the same thing, because I see so much, and obviously we know that social media is just a polarizing place, and it is what it is. There's only a lot of times the loud extreme opinions that are shown the most, but you kind of see this separation between the anti-diet culture or diet culture and stuff, where I do think there is elements, not that I think diets are great or anything, but I think there's sometimes when you're first starting out, some element of structure to help you educate about your food choices and portion sizes and calories can be helpful for people who are just starting from scratch and then moving into, we all want to be in a more intuitive and mindful space, which is clearly like a great end goal and where most people want to be. I don't think many people want to have to be highly restrictive or like paying attention to every calorie or looking at all of the ingredients and everything every single time and consuming themselves with that. But you kind of have to get there through a little bit of structure, which I think it can be a blend of both sometimes. And yeah, like you said, it affords you the luxury once you educate yourself to be more loose and lenient around it. And that's the goal, I think, ultimately.
Yeah. To get to that more intuitive place.
Right. And you just know what choices are, where you kind of need to be most of the time to maintain how you want to look, how you want to feel. You have enough experience making healthy choices that when you make shitty ones, you're like, okay, that's why I don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't eat a pint of ice cream before bed or whatever, So I wanted to talk too in terms of along the same lines. We had also talked to at one point about, you were mentioning, and I know it's kind of part of the IVF process as well, to probably like not be drinking as much alcohol, and you are someone who drinks mindfully. But I just wanted to talk about, because obviously with Sober Curiosity, I talk to people about their relationship with alcohol all the time. And so I want to hear how that fits in your life and where you find balance with that. And yeah, more there, please.
Yeah. I just think as I've gotten older, it's just naturally I've drank less and less. And it's not so much that I like was turned off by the drinking. Like I was still having fun going out at night. It's just the hangovers are what I just are not worth it to me. It was getting to a point where it's like the fun night out isn't worth losing a whole day. And like, especially like when you have things in your life that you're really passionate about, it's like, I don't want to waste a whole day sitting on the couch with anxiety. I have stuff I want to do. And so the older I've gotten, the less and less I've drank. And then I've been doing IVF. And so you technically could drink at like certain times in the IVF cycle, I guess. But I was just like, why? What's the point?
Yeah, totally. I think it's important to highlight just different people's processes with alcohol and how, there's addiction, there's sober curiosity, there's just simply like getting older and not wanting to binge drink like an asshole anymore too, and just wanting to be a more mindful drinker. And one thing you said that stood out to me so much is when you have things you're passionate about. And that really resonated with me, because I think that was a big part of why I binge drink for so long, is just not necessarily having something really meaningful to pour my energy into. And it was almost this like avoidance of acknowledging that through drinking sometimes, where like, well, don't have anything I'm passionate about, so I guess I'll just get drunk again tonight,
Totally. I could see that.
Yeah, it's like that spiritual element and like connection to a deeper purpose in your life is helpful, I think, in not seeking distractions to fill the void.
Yeah. I had this one night, my Joe and I got hammered and we came home and my dog Squeaky, this was when we like closer to when we first adopted him. He was a very nervous dog at first. He still
Mm.
is. And we came home just being loud, drunk idiots. And it really scared Squeaky. Like he was hiding under the bed from me. And it was such a horrifying moment. It broke my heart. Like my dog is scared of me right now.
Aw.
And that like really snapped me into shape. I was like, I never want to be that drunk around my dog ever again. It broke my heart.
Oh, Squeaky.
It was so sad. I had the worst, and then I had anxiety for days because of that. And so it's, yeah, just so often I just find that drinking's not worth it.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know how I used to drink, so
Yeah.
makes sense I don't do it anymore. I was
We all
thinking,
used to drink like that in high school. It was so normalized.
yeah, I don't know. And this is something to anyone who listens to this. Like, we both grew up on Martha's Vineyard where it's very seasonal and touristy. And so there was like a very heavy binge drinking culture, but I'm not sure if it was like that everywhere. You know,
I
like, what do
mean,
your friends from college say?
they, some of them also definitely binge drank in high school, but I don't know if it was like to the end that we were. I don't think they were playing beer pong with 100 proof vodka like we were.
Ooh, that's
Like,
scary. I didn't remember that, but
yeah, like I think it
like, it makes
existed, but
sense.
maybe not
Okay.
to the extent. I mean, I remember when my college girlfriends came to visit me. You were there this night, and we went out and we were at a party, and like the cops came, and they like everyone was getting in trouble with the cops, and my college friends were definitely like, "All right, we didn't get in trouble with the police when we were in high school."
Yeah. People, oh God. I got arrested when people came to visit me from college and they had to take me to my like court show appearance the next morning. And it was, they had to come get me from the like drunk tank in high school or college. And I remember my mom, poor Kathy, God bless her soul, put her through a lot. She's like, "Where's Katie?" Because I had my college friends at my house, and they didn't want to tell on me, but they're like, well, we have to go pick her up right now."
I
So
think
bad.
uh, I think that, like, think about it. In high school, it was so normal to have DUIs, to have gotten arrested. I got arrested too. I won't let you be the only one to like admit that on your podcast. I got arrested too in high school and
Um,
at prom.
yeah, I
So,
remember that.
and so that being normalized, I think that that's like a vineyard thing.
Yeah, I mean,
That
our prom was quite the. You getting arrested at prom was not even the worst of it either. There was like, I think I was blackout drunk at prom and no one noticed. And it's like, it was wild then. And to think now, it's so funny to reflect now and where I'm at. But I look at it and I think, if I hadn't drank like that, would I have gotten to the point where, where would I be now? So I always try to look at it in a positive light, like, wow, well, that was a bit extreme, but maybe I needed that extreme to kind of go in the other direction. And so it's really interesting to think back. I was actually thinking as we were preparing for this podcast, I was thinking of just funny memories from high school and how different we are now and how interesting it is to see people through different seasons of their life and the evolution of each other. And the memory popped into my head when I just woke up at your house that one time and I didn't know how I had gotten there. And you were like, "Katie, where did you come from?" Like,
Oh, yes.
I
And
ran there.
you ran there and you were like covered in dirt.
Yeah, like
And
these
I
are
woke
things.
up and you were just laying in bed next to me. Yes.
I'm like, "Hey, I just came over to spend the night here. I don't know. I ran here from a party." I was telling my mom about that when she was here, and she's like, "Oh my God, I don't want to know. I'm just glad you survived." And so I think it's really entertaining to reflect on, and thank God that I did survive. Like there was many times where, we could have narrowly missed death, like on several occasions. So grateful for that, and also just I share too, because I feel like it's just good for people to hear that, like looking at where we're both at now, and you drink minimally, you're a fitness instructor into health and wellness, and I'm helping people with sober curiosity. So, yeah.
Started from the bottom, now we here.
From the bottom, now we here, honey. If I can do it, anyone can do it. Oh my God, scary. But okay, I wanted to shift gears a little bit, and we will revisit that slightly before we wrap things up, because nothing like some good old high school humiliation reflections. But I wanted to talk a little bit about your IVF journey, because I think was really cool that you shared about it. I think it's such a sensitive topic, and you're so transparent with the things that you share, and you can really tell, even with pickles, God bless RIP. I thought it was really cool that you shared about that, and it's just like very obvious that you're coming from a genuine place that's really connectable. Is that a word? Connectable?
Yeah.
I think it is. So I wanted to ask, like, what compelled you to share about IVF, and like, how is it going for you now, and how has that process been for you?
It's been a very long process, but it's going smoothly. Obviously, this isn't the ideal path. I wish we could have gotten pregnant just on our own, but all things considered, it's going well. Just like, I'll give the quick backstory, but we started trying to get pregnant 4 years ago. After a year of trying on our own, we made an appointment with a doctor, did 1.5 million tests, and he told us everything looked normal. He was like, everything looks normal, but let's do IVF. And we were kind of like, well, if everything looks fine, let's just keep trying on our own, because we weren't in a rush. And then COVID happened. So that also was like, we can wait. So then 2 more years go by, and we're like, we need to revisit this. So we redo all the tests, and the second doctor identified an issue on Joe's side, and that is probably the reason that we can't get pregnant. So then it was like, we'll do IUI, we'll try 2 rounds of that, and if that doesn't work, we'll do IVF. So the IUI, those 2 rounds didn't work, so then it was on to IVF, and that's where we are now. We've done egg retrieval, and so up next we have to do the transfer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a long process, and definitely a very overwhelming process. But compared to just like talking to my other friends who've done egg retrievals or IVF, I've had it, I think it's gone pretty smoothly for me. So I'm a lucky one for sure.
Yeah. And you just handle it all very graciously and kind of in stride. And you just have a really good perspective, I think, where it could be something that I'm sure, you're not expressing like every negative emotion that you have had with it, but just from my perspective, it seems like you've really handled it with a lot of strength and just kind of made it look easy. But when you do think of like what advice you would give to other women who struggle with this kind of process, like what would your the tip that would be on the forefront of your mind be?
First, I would just say that you're not alone. I think it's changed, and people are talking about it more now. But for a while, like forever, you didn't really talk about this. So I think it's easy to feel alone, or like there's something wrong with you, or like there's like that aspect of feeling like a failure. And that's not the case at all. And the more you do talk to people, you realize how common some sort of fertility struggles are. Unfortunately, it's common, but it is. So just say you're not alone. And then what's helped me, I feel like this whole process is like, you have expectations, it doesn't work out. So then you feel really sad and disappointed. So then you readjust expectations, get excited again, you're disappointed. And it's like this cycle, but to just keep readjusting those expectations and focus on the fact that there is another path. It may not be the path that you thought you would be on or the path you want, but at least you're on a path. Like I all the time just think about how grateful I am that I'm alive now when we have all these advancements in medicine. And so there is still a route to motherhood for me. Like there are still options. So I try to focus on that. And like the end result is going to be a baby. It's a different, windier path to get there. But as long as it ends with me as a mom, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I know. Based on the way that you care for your dogs,
I'm obsessed.
I'm pretty sure that you'll be a good mom. So I have no doubt in my mind there. And yeah, I think just the common humanity element of things always is so good. And I imagine that's why, you know, even though it's difficult probably for you to share, is part of the reason why you did. Would you say that's accurate? Like just kind of sharing because it's like you are pretty transparent with your life, but also what else do you feel like contributed to you wanting to share?
I think just because especially at first, I felt like I should have been more sad and upset by it than I was, but I really have been able to stay positive through pretty much the whole process. And so I just thought, you know, it can be a really sensitive topic for a lot of people, understandably, but I just felt like for whatever reason, it's really not that sensitive of a topic for me. And I have this little platform. So I don't know, I felt like not that I should share, but that it was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah, that you felt comfortable doing so, and in doing
Yeah.
so, it might help other people as well, and that don't feel as comfortable being open about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's great. I think it's wonderful that you did, because it is something that can be like almost something that has shame around it or secrecy, or you don't want to talk about it, and it's just like destigmatizing it and being like, no, it's actually unfortunately a prevalent issue. And I mean, there's like many reasons why that could be, like, who knows, food, everything, all the things,
Yeah.
all the poison. I'm like, and now we're going to talk about conspiracy theories. Or
And
just
your
like,
tinfoil hat comes out and
I have one. John made me.
I know.
You know, I have one. Even though it's like funny, it's just the reality of like the world is just increasingly more toxic and stuff. So, but again, like another opportunity to have balance with it and be like, well, what are the best decisions I can make? Like, how much control can I have? So yeah, I appreciate you sharing about that, because I think it's definitely can be something that's a more sensitive topic for people, and it's cool just to be able to share your experience and show that it's also not something to be like ashamed of, or kind of that you aren't alone in the process of it all. So I love that too. So okay, let's talk about, we did IVF. I want to talk about, before we wrap things up, because I don't want to make it go on for too long, because we could be here all day. I wanted to ask, if you were to say kind of like what is your life motto, what would you say that is?
So I don't know if this would be a life motto, but something that I find, like a phrase or like a mantra that I find myself always repeating is, and I think it started like work related with this weird unconventional job path I've taken, but it's just do the best you can with what you have. Because I felt it started just being related to my job, but now I just feel like it's just life in general. Mm-hmm. Because when I first started out, I had the jankiest setup for filming workouts, for starting my website, for everything. Like, I don't have a big studio. I'm in a small apartment working out of my living room. I didn't have a good camera, the lighting, all of this, and it was easy to just get overwhelmed. And so I would just say, instead of focusing on all these things you don't have, like, just focus on what you have and just do the best you can with that, and then take it from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so good. That applies so broadly too. And in the age of comparison, where it's just like, there's always going to be someone doing something with more extravagant everything. And so that really applies to, because I was going to ask actually like what advice you would give to somebody in terms of entrepreneurship or IVF, or, you know, just finding healthy balance in general. And that kind of touches on all the bases, is just, and such a good piece of advice too, because people get so overwhelmed and caught up with where they like want to be, or what they want to accomplish. It's like, just focus on what you have in front of you and take it from there instead of, yeah. it gives you a lot more, like a much more empowered sense of control rather than being like a victim of your circumstances. And that's very apparent in your attitude and the way you carry yourself.
No, thank you.
You're welcome. So, okay, this is the last question before I want to know about like where people can find you and all that stuff. But if you were to like show high school Nicole yourself now, what do you think would surprise 100 Proof Beer Pong high school Nicole the most about your life now?
Oh my, I don't know, because I think I'd be most surprised that I didn't have like 5 kids by now in a house or whatever. I'm 35 now. So I think that's what would be most surprising, because I never really had a clear vision of what I wanted to do career-wise. So if you had asked me back, and I was just like floundering around like throughout high school. I was school, but like in college, I changed my major every 5 seconds. After college, I just kind of like wandered between jobs, not really knowing what I wanted. I never had a clear picture of what that aspect of my life would look like. Mm-hmm. So I don't think high school Nicole would be surprised that I'm like a YouTuber. Actually, maybe she would, because YouTube didn't even exist when we were in high school.
Like, what the hell is YouTube?
Yeah, what is YouTube? But I think high school Nicole would be shocked that I wasn't like a mom of 5 by now.
Oh my gosh, I know, it's so funny thinking of high school, even in general, and the perspective on being 34. I'm like, I still feel young, but...
What do you think high school Katie would think of 34-year-old Katie?
She'd be like, mind blown.
Yeah.
She'd be like, what the fuck is sober curiosity? You know, like most of the things that I write about, like people saying people who don't drink are boring, or people getting triggered by your sobriety, that's all based in high school Katie and how she was, you know. I use her as my inspiration for posts about like what a lot of people face when they decide they don't want to drink as much or not at all, and just kind of working on personal development and growth. I think she would have laughed and been like, give me a beer, shut up.
Yeah.
She's like, nah. But you know, it's all it takes what it takes to like get you where you are. So I think a lot of it has just it kind of needed to happen for me personally to get where I am. And so I always just like laugh and appreciate that crazy lush girl that I was, and the crazy times I had. But yeah, she'd certainly be shocked about nearly every aspect of my life, that I like go to bed at 9 p.m. at the latest, and I love to garden and read and avoid people. Live the granny life happily.
But you know, high school Nicole, I would not be shocked that you are doing something in the podcast realm. I always thought that you were just always such a question asker. Like anytime we were like telling a story to you or something, we would always joke that if you try to tell a story to Katie, you get 800 follow-up questions. You wanted to know every detail. You'd be like, what was the person wearing? Were there any cats in the room? What was the weather like? It was impossible to get through a story with you. So high school Nicole would not be shocked that you are interviewing people on a podcast.
I know, that's rich. My uncle always makes fun of me because he's like, you are literally the worst person to watch movies with as a child, because I hadn't seen the movie either 90% of the time. You're like, well, why'd she do that? What happened there? But my mom does that too, like throughout stories, like, God damn, too many questions. I'm out of breath trying to tell you this goddamn story. But yeah, so I have always been curious for sure. So that plays into like sober curiosity and stuff pretty nicely. And definitely my conspiracy theorist side and my podcast side.
There you go.
Anarchist. But tell everyone where, I want to hear, like, share about all the different places everyone can find you. YouTube, Book Talk, all the things, Instagram.
So if you are interested in Pilates, mobility, fitness, movement, then YouTube is the best place to find me. It's just Nicole Pearce on YouTube, or Nicole Pearce Movement, I think is the URL. I don't think it is. If you're interested in book recommendations, Either my Instagram or my book talk. My book talk is Nicole Pearce Books. My Instagram is just a hot mess. It's a little of everything, a little fitness, a little
That's a
books,
good
a
like
little.
intro though, because it shows your personality a lot too in your stories and stuff, and just like
Yeah,
you. It's not a niche, so it's kind of just like you, unfiltered.
yeah. My Instagram is the anti-niche, and it's just Nicole Pearce.
Yeah, so we have YouTube, book talk, regular talk, Nicole Pearce workouts talk,
Yeah.
and Instagram. And then you have it in your link tree if anyone wants
Yes.
to. Amazing. Well, thank you for doing this with me. So fun. And we'll have to do this again once you have your pregnancy and babies, because then we can talk about what high school Nicole and Katie would think about us as mothers.
God, I think we have some karma coming our way when our kids are teenagers.
Oh my God.
It's going to be
I bet
bad.
yours will be like salutatorian or whatever. Mine's just going to be driving around in her Corolla like a wild animal.
Oh, gosh.
But all right, I love you. Thanks for coming on.
I love you, Katie.
You're the best.